Hi, just want to give you a few notes on insulin. So here's the liver, right? So here's the blood, right? So here is the muscle, here's the cell, and here is the adipose tissue, right? So let me do this. So this is liver, this is muscle, this is cell, this is adipose tissue, and this is blood. And here's the food. And here is the pancreas, right? Pancreas. So one hormone is called insulin. I'm gonna put H right next to it. And another hormone is glucagon. I'm gonna put H next to it. The reason I put H next to hormone because we usually abbreviate G as a glucose. So in this case, it's a glucagon. So there are two important hormones, insulin and glucagon. So those two hormones, they control blood sugar. So what happens when we eat food? So what happens when we consume products, when we eat food, let's say glucose, right? So let's say carbohydrates. So that leads to increase of blood glucose. So now you have increased blood glucose. So the blood constantly passes through the pancreas, and pancreas is that control center that is able to control the levels of glucose in the body. So there are two important hormones that can regulate that. So it's either insulin or glucagon. In this case, when there is a high blood glucose after the meal, the insulin will be released. The reason I put arrow down because insulin is a storage hormone. Insulin decreases everything. Insulin stores. So we bring glucose. So I'm gonna draw a circle. It's a glucose. So the glucose goes into the muscles. So the glucose gets into the cell. Glucose gets into the liver, and then glucose could be converted into fatty acids and would be stored as fat. So you see what is going on? After the meal, your insulin hormone is very high. In this case, I'm gonna put the arrow up. So the insulin is high. So when the insulin is high and you're constantly storing energy, this is the energy or the materials, whatever, you're constantly shuffling this throughout the body. So you do not give chance to your system, to your body, release energy, release your stored energy. So if you have increased weight and your goal is to lose weight, it is really hard for you to release fatty acids. I usually write them as letter E, triglycerides, like that, right? So you don't really have a chance to give your adipose tissue to release energy. So in this case, glucagon would be low. So after the meal or during the meal, or maybe you have type 2 diabetes, or maybe you have pre-diabetes, however, whatever you have, when there's insulin is high, when insulin is high, glucagon is low. The only time when glucagon will be increased, and glucagon is a releasing energy hormone, the only time glucagon will be increased when insulin will be decreased. And the only time insulin is decreased is when you're not eating or 3 to 4 hours after the meal. So the times when the insulin is constantly increased, it's usually during metabolic disorder, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, when the cells are resistant to insulin or the receptors are resistant to insulin. So I do explain this in more details in my lectures. Have a good day.